Hey everybody, there is a quiz on Canvas. It's just on the PDF that was sent in the announcement and the 2 videos. It's pretty straightforward, 2 multiple choice questions. Yeah, just go on to Canvas and go to quizzes. Awesome, thank you all. Pizza's running late. Apologies. It will arrive eventually. Is getting kind of old. We're going to give you till 4:05 on the quiz, just to let everyone get in here, and then we'll start. And at that time, we're going to start doing. I'll ask a few questions, but then we're going to do open pitch pizza. So with pending pizza. Can you guys hear me? So if you signed up to pitch, then we're going to have everybody line up here over on your left. And so in just a few minutes. So get ready, but it's not a stressful thing. It's easy. And I hope we get a bunch of people to come pitch today. It's the first day. And we'll put a reminder up there of what the pitches are all about. All right, so while people are finishing up the quiz, tell me about last week. Did anyone raise your hand if you met somebody that you might be able to work with? Higher. Like 15? That's pretty good. Anything surprising? Anything surprise anybody? No? I'll tell you one thing that I found surprising, very relevant to today. I've been teaching this class for about a little more than 15 years now. And last year was the first year that any student, when we did that exercise, when everybody gets up and introduces themselves and says, what they're interested in, what they want to do. Last year, one person got up and said, I'm really interested in defense technology and dual use. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I wasn't really expecting that from students. It is something that we do a lot of stuff with here. But this year, I counted, as I was looking through all your intros last week, and 7 of you out of 67 people, so more than 10% of all the students did. And I think that's pretty significant. Like that's a pretty, it's hard to, that's not just like a little bump. That's like a big change. So hopefully you're going to find this conversation today really interesting. We'll get into it in a few minutes. But if you did just walk in, it's quiz time, which means you go to Canvas. And on Canvas, after you log in, you should see a quiz in our class. The quiz is meant to be super easy. It's supposed to check that you watched the video, read the information, did whatever we asked you to do to prepare for today. And so expect that to happen every week. And this format's going to be more of the format. Today's a little special because we have Ms. Kim Newton from the Army, which again I'll get to in just a minute. But the rest of this format is what it'll be like. We'll get a chance to do open pitches. We'll get a chance to talk. You'll have a chance to ask questions. And in the future, you can see the lineup now. We've got them all lined up. It's in addition to tonight, which is going to be, I think, really interesting, we've got a whole lineup of really amazing entrepreneurs who have built really big companies that are really interesting, that you'll be able to talk to and get to ask your questions of. So looks like it's going to be a great semester. So with that, we're going to do open pitch. So would everyone who is going to pitch today, which we had maybe 15 people sign up, I think maybe a few people weren't sure exactly what they're signing up for, so that's okay. But if you're going to pitch today, can you come line up here on the side so we can have it go rapid fire like we did before? And this will be similar to what we did last week, but you'll be pitching your startups instead, like your actual startup ideas. And one person will get $100, like every week. So I hope somebody more. I mean, if one person pitches, they get the $100. So I hope at least a few people pitch. But yeah. So anybody up for pitching? Anybody want $100? We had like 15 people sign up.
Oh, you have to. Is it open also just like if you want to do like a top two?
Well, apparently it is now because like nobody's even getting up. So like I don't even know. Like, you want $100? Like, come on, line up over here. Is anybody else gonna pitch? Give a round of applause. What about anybody else? We all these people sign up.
I'll also go.
Coming up?
Well, I was like, I'm prop too, maybe.
Come up? Yeah. All right, come on, line up over here. We got 2. You have a 50-50 chance. Come on over here for now. You get in the front, though. 3. All right, your chances are going down slowly, but they're still pretty good. Like right now, if you came up, you have a 25% chance. Where's 4? How about one more? Can we get one more pitch? It's not Bitcoin. All right, I guess we're going to do 4. You ready? All right, so let's put up the slide. Thank you. Give a round of applause. Let's put up the slide that's got what their instructions are. Do I have the clicker? Let's put up the slide, Josh. All right. So again, as a reminder, anybody can sign up to pitch. As members of the class, you all get priority, but any student at UT or professor or grad student we have like a schizophrenic screen in the back that's kind of like wigging me out, but I'll try my best. Any student can come pitch. And so, and for just coming in real quick, go to Canvas right away and tell them to check the quiz. So yeah, we'd love to have people pitch every week. It's fun. It makes the class more fun. Somebody gets $100. And for my selfish reason for doing this is I want to get to know you guys and I want to see what you're working on and I want to find people that are working on. That's why I don't care if you're in the class, because it doesn't matter if you take this class, whether or not you can take the class next semester. So again, if you know anybody on campus that's like working on something cool, they can like come to Capital Factory, get free pizza, get to pitch and get exposure for what they're doing, get $100, and maybe we help them go do more stuff or like invest in them. Like it's a pretty good deal. Like so anyway, help us spread the word. Hopefully we'll keep doing this every week. And so you'll get up, we lined up, you're gonna give a 2-minute pitch. Who's gonna time? All right, Amber's gonna time, and so she'll wave at you vigorously from the back to let you know doesn't mean you have to like stop talking mid-sentence, it just means like wrap up. Then Ms. Newton and I will be sitting in the front. And no pressure on her, but I will give you some feedback. She may or may not choose to. If she has some feedback, she'll give you some too. Hopefully, she will too. And you might want to tell us if it's not obvious at the beginning. You can say like, "This is an investor pitch," and the other kind of obvious thing is like, "This is a customer pitch." Which is a little more like, "I'm just pitching the product, like why you'd want to use it, what it is, why it's good," and we have plenty of time to do this every week. We've got 20 minutes left now, and somebody gets a $100 bill. So, you ready? You can introduce yourself too. That's a good one as part of it too. So, okay. I know we did last week, but a little reminder. So,
I'm just thinking that
we won't hold it against you. No, you can say your name without that counting. All right, you ready? Thank you for being first.
All right. Yeah.
So, hey everyone, just in case you don't remember me, my name is Dan Totalescu. I gave the whole explanation, whole spiel last week, but this is just like an idea I've had for a while. Not an actual product or anything, but it would be really cool if I could if someone could maybe join me on this. Like, if I can actually get a team to build this, I think it would be pretty cool. So, all right. So I've done parkour for like just over a year at this point with the community in Austin, and it's like every single time I'm hearing like people say, "Oh, I wish this shoe was still around." Like, "Oh, like, dude, like I only buy these shoes. This shoe is like my life, my soul." Like, it's an integral part of parkour, and so like I think building a shoe that would be durable, that like lasts through like months of intense training, would be I think quite the game changer. It's a very loyal customer base. Like once these athletes commit to a shoe, like they will swear by that thing. Like they do not switch. It's almost like it gets like a life of its own. And so, if you don't mind, I'm gonna like recreate like a little scene, I think, of just so you kind of get a sense of what it would be like to watch.
Are you doing parkour?
I can like try to jump from here to there, but like I want to set the scene a little.
All right.
So
Just don't break anything, but go crazy.
there you go. So just like imagine yourself like I'm standing on a wall right here. I'm trying to get to like maybe I don't know if I can jump this far, but maybe to this spot right here. All right. So like just imagine for a second. I might not be as exciting here. There's not as much danger, but it's just
You didn't know
like,
the danger you're in.
exactly. I thought there was like I could have fallen to my death right there, but yeah, no, it's.
Okay, Drew,
Yeah,
turn on the
yeah,
fire.
Yeah. Okay. Give me like five more seconds. Okay. Cool. So, like, I think it would just be an amazing product to like that could support the parkour community like for years to come. Like, it can be there for them through like rain, shine, like maybe not broken shins, but like like scraped shins, like any injury you can imagine. Like, I want them to be carried by this shoe. I can probably go into more detail about it later if you want to talk to me. I have like a whole set of notes. So, yeah.
All right.
You can hand that to the next person. And I'm gonna need you to pick that. First of all, great job. Thanks for being first. That takes guts. It's, as we know from everybody pitching last week, pitching is intimidating for everybody. Like I may not look like it as much anymore, but it was very intimidating for me. And I've just got a lot of practice. And so that's why we're making you practice, because practice actually really helps a lot. And that was a good pitch. It was good because it was personal. It's good because you had an ask, although I would always repeat it at the end. You were like, you kind of snuck in, I'm looking for people to work with me or help with me. Like that, if you're getting the chance to get up in front of everybody, you want to use it to like ask for something, right? So it could have been like, like, hey, like, I don't want to have, I'm just going to give you feedback and then we're going to jump to you because we got to keep moving. Thank you though. So making the ask at the end, again, would really help. I think you did, I personally think this is like a great kind of business for you to start on because it's like a good kind of niche, like it's like very focused on a specific audience and you know them. And I don't know anything about making shoes, but these days I bet with 3D printing and materials and all kinds of stuff, it's probably easier than ever to make shoes. I believe you can probably go make a shoe that's, a good shoe. And that I think it's, and because it's so niche and it, like, that's where it's like, yeah, maybe you could go get all the parkour people to use it and become the parkour shoe, and then maybe you expand into other stuff or something. So I think that's all really cool. And what would make the pitch even better would be showing that you know stuff about shoes, separate from parkour. Like, okay, so I've really looked at the shoe industry, and let me tell you, first of all, there's other people launching shoes not for parkour, but for this kind of thing, and wow, it did really well, and here's how they did it, and I'm going to do it like that, or I'm not, or here's how I'm going to do it different, or whatever. But showing that like not just a lot about parkour, but a lot about like how you're going to go make this a business. Okay, did you parkour?
I do not.
No, she does not parkour. I don't either, but my 14-year-old thinks it's super cool. All right, awesome, thank you, great job. All right, ready? Remember the one big clap? All right, we'll keep working on it. You're up.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. My name is Krish Prabhu, and I came here last time talking about a startup idea I had about an artificial intelligence that would act as your personal secretary. And I just want to preface by asking you guys, how many of y'all interact with ChatGPT or any other like large language model like Bard or something using the website or the app?
Well, so do we want it together?
Both.
Both,
It's
okay.
fine. All right, now what about outside of the app or the website? Not many of y'all are raising your hands. So that's what I'm trying to tackle. We have these powerful language models created by OpenAI and Google, and these are like multi-billion-dollar companies that are already creating these powerful AIs. So why should an artificial intelligence company trying to make a software be working on their own AIs when they can just harness the power of these pre-existing AIs? It's very little development that you need to do because you're not needing all the large training data and data sets that you need to train your own AI. But you can leverage the generalized power of all these large AIs and have a company make it for you. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create a secretary that can go through, read your emails, and understand like the way you talk, who you're talking to, the context of your situations. If someone says, hey, you want to have a meeting on Tuesday at 5 p.m., it can understand the context of that email, understand, okay, 5 p.m., look at the keywords, and using like APIs like Google Calendar API, it can automatically create a calendar for you. And that's only a niche use case. With a generalized secretary, there's so much you can accomplish, and you're not having to use the same overheads of developing your own AI for it. And this is something I've already tested for a hackathon where I built the entire software in a week, and it did exactly that. So it's an incredibly powerful tool, and there's different like ideas I've had for using like protecting people's personal data. Like before sending it to the AI through API, you can always hash the names and other identifying information. So it's just numbers. So there's always like the personal like privacy protections can always be implemented. So I think it's a really cool idea. I already have made a minimum viable product. I just want some more people who are more experienced in software development and backend to help me with it. And I'm doing the McCombs pitch on that application for the 20th, and hopefully I get it, and I'll see you at McCombs pitch if you guys are going. Thank you.
One more time.
All right, we got it. All right, so great job. Obviously, you practiced that. Like you're getting ready for your next big pitch coming up. Good job. I think this is a really cool space. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff happening here. I think, your specific initial use case of email is personally, I think, one of the best use cases of LLMs right now for like people, like the things outside of, just using the generic one. I use Superhuman, and it recently added a feature like that. It only looks at the past year, but you can ask it questions where it's like read all your emails for the past year. It's like awesome. It's like super cool. We also use Notion, and Notion similarly, you can like have an LLM of everything in your Notion. So it's just like it's like someone that's read all your docs for your company, like all the company manual and everything else, and like you can just ask it questions as opposed to like trying to find things. So I find that to be those are two like great use cases. And Superhuman's good, but right now it's only a year, and it's only that's only the things in Superhuman, which I think there's a case to be made for like, a lot of people have multiple email accounts, could you pull it from a lot of places and like really just have my brain or pull my chats and other things too. So I think that's all super interesting. There's a lot of people doing let me train an LLM on blank your data, right? And so I think, really like what makes your thing different? Or are you just someone that's gonna help company, like more like a little bit more of a consultant? Like I'm just gonna help you figure out the best way to take your data and use one of the things out there to go make something cool. And all those are good, so.
So that's what I was going to say is when you do this, you need to come see me because the Army needs this. But really what Josh said at the last part of being a company that actually shows others how to kind of harvest that and harness that power, because it's one of the things that keeps us from, going straight to a big company right now is all of the problems that it also brings. One of the things I'd ask you to think about is the security pieces. right? Because this is something that if like defense wanted to, you know, pick up your company, that'd be a really important thing. But yeah, that's a great idea. Love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, Chad, you can hand the mic over. Add just for me, one of the things that Superhuman has as such a big benefit is it's actually, it's a really big deal to say you can read all my email, and they already got that one. Like that's their job, is to read all your email, so they already see all your emails. So to let them do the AI on it, it's not that much more of a stretch versus it's a lot bigger risk to give somebody else all your email, or like let some student startup read all my email, or like unfortunately, those are things you're gonna have to get over and deal with. You can, but they're just things you got to get over. So, great job.
Thank you.
All right, who's up next? We'll do one big clap when they're done, and then jump to the next one.
Hey guys, I'm Will, and I am the co-founder of Finopsis. And what we do at Finopsis is that we are automating financial research with comprehensive industry and company insights. So we've talked to a lot of bankers in the investment banking industry, most notably from Evercore, Goldman Sachs, T. Rowe Price, and we all saw a common problem, and that is that they're doing a lot of manual and repetitive work when it comes to doing company research. And there are two big problems in this space that we want to address. First of all, there's a lack of technological advancement inside the investment banking industry. Why is that? They're a bunch of old heads. They don't want to adopt newer technologies in favor of their pre-existing technologies. And number two, there is a lot, once I said it again, as I said, there's a lot of repetitive manual research that's going into the entire process, leading them to spend a lot more time and a lot more money researching companies when they could be doing something else. And our startup, we aim to automate these menial tasks. And we are doing this through visualized company insights, company histories, event impacts, as well as industry insights as well. And all of this is powered by our multi-agent, AI multi-agent, which uses chain of thought reasoning to make sure that we have zero hallucinations, as well as giving you a fully accurate answer that has answers sourced from the web and real financial data sources. And our company is live right now on https://finopsis.ai. Thank you.
Awesome, great job. Obviously, you practiced too, I think it's a really good pitch, and it's definitely really interesting. Your company name is not like I could say back to you what you just said to me, Finopsis. I don't think I could spell it.
Yeah, think of like synopsis, but with an F instead of an S.
And so okay, now I'm getting a better idea. I'm still not sure I could spell it. And so, I would just think about, in that case, like one, obviously, especially as a young startup, it's hard to pick names, and it's hard, so it's not like it's a terrible name or something. But because it's not easy to spell, you might want to say it's like synopsis with an F.
Yeah.
Just because you want people, it's really important people remember your name. Or you're like, hey, just go look us up. And it's like, well, I can't actually spell the thing you said or remember it. So, but when you say it's like synopsis with an F, honestly, that's a good tagline. I can kind of remember that, right? So, and it definitely makes it work better. So something like that really helps. When, you did kind of gloss over, you spent a lot of time talking about why it's good, but you kind of glossed over this idea of we provide these summaries, and then at one point you said, and you gave some examples, this kind of summary, this kind of summary, this kind of summary. And I think turning that more into a use case would be great, where it's really just helping us really understand better, because if we don't actually do that, I don't really know what that means. Because you have already been practicing a bunch, and you definitely, I'd say this, you've got something going, and you've done this pitch before. Something I would say to everybody about pitching, and you'll probably not hear me say over and over again, because it's something that almost everybody can work on. And even when I make a pitch, I have to remind myself, because I forget, and then I won't do it, and I'll have to go back and try to do it again. And then even when I think I'm trying to do it, I'm like, crap, that was really hard. I need to do that better. It's hard, but it's really good when it works. And that is to turn your pitch into a story. And have it be less of me describing a bunch of stuff. Like, let me tell you about my company. Here's what it does, and here's the features it has, and here's why it's so good. And more of, let me tell you about this problem I had. And I was doing this, and this happened. And then so I built this. And you know what I learned? I learned this, and so I built this instead. And then I did this, and oh, actually, then this happened. And and here's how it works now. And you know what? It turned out like it saved them all this time. It's like, and just kind of like, you're just kind of telling a story. And it turns out that's actually way easier to keep everyone's attention for. Like, even when I come here expecting you to pitch, I still kind of zone out a little bit when people start pitching. Like, it's just like, it's people's like kind of natural reaction to getting pitched is kind of like, oh, you're selling me something. Versus like, people's natural reaction to someone telling them a story is to actually listen and wonder what happens next and like listen to the story. And to the like being able to explain it to somebody else, very unlikely I could repeat your pitch. But if you tell me a story, actually I can probably do a 50-60% decent chance of like telling the story to somebody else, because it's a story. You remember it like a story. And I would just end on that, like, it's no accident that the Bible is a story, like, and that it's something that was passed down and remembered, or whatever version of it you might have. Like, they all started as a whole bunch of stories and a whole bunch, because that's what people remember and pass on and can hold on to. So that's your like ninja move going next, is like going from like, hey, I've got a good pitch, let me tell you why it's good, and I've got some good stats, and I've got some good whatever, to like, you don't even know I'm pitching you. Like, I just like, whoa, what just happened? Like, so anyway, good job. Yeah. Did we already clap?
Yeah.
All right.
Last one? We got one more? Is I can make 5? All right, good, awesome.
All right. Hey everyone, I'm Harshit. I'm a computer science major, and I'm also the co-founder of LA Cheats, Longhorn Eats. And before I talk about the product, let me tell you guys a quick story. So in freshman year, I was at PCL, and I saw this cute, amazing little girl. Oh shoot. Okay. Cute girl from a distance, right? She had blonde hair. She was maybe 5'3", 5'4", and I decided to take my shot, right? I went up to her and I said, hey, I know this great place has an unlimited buffet, lobster's tail, and all-you-can-eat mac and cheese. She said yes, right? So the next day, I went to her dorm room with my suit. She had her dress on, and I took her to the best place on campus, the JCL dining hall. The look on her face when she saw the dining hall was horrendous, and she walked straight out. So that's what inspired me to create Longhorn Eats. Basically, what Longhorn Eats does is it tells you the different dining halls on campus, and it tells you the different items that are available at the specific time, what people are finding popular, and the actual images of each item. So you're not left stranded with horrible looking items. Another feature that we have is definitely nutrition details. So I'm vegetarian myself, and it's pretty difficult to find something that fits dietary needs, right? We also have a meal maker. So basically, say you're trying to bulk up, right? You can put in your weight, your preferences, and figure out like, hey, this is how much protein I need to hit. This is a specific meal that you can eat at the dining halls. If you're a commuter, you don't want to waste $10 on a meal swipe, right? So find out what there is to eat at each dining hall before you go and waste your time scootering over there. So that gives LA Cheats. It's available on the App Store. We currently have 2,000 users, and we're getting acquired by UT. So yeah, download it.
And that was the best clap, too. Great job. Killer pitch. You had a story. I get it. You solved a real problem. You talk about traction and like real stuff, and you kind of left at the end. It was a little bit of a surprise. You're like, oh yeah, by the way, it's in the app. You can download it. We've got a bunch of users, and UT just acquired us. It's just kind of like, oh yeah. So that was great. Sounds awesome. And congrats. Super cool. And honestly, it's really hard to get UT to actually do anything, acquire anything. It must actually work. Or maybe that means it doesn't work. I'm sorry. I don't know. But good luck. But no, that's great. I'm super impressed. That was really cool. Great pitch. The thing that would make it was already really good. You're already telling a story. It was already a great pitch. Now going to Black Belt Ninja is actually make the whole thing a story. So, and this is, again, I'll fall into this all the time. Like, you started off with the story.
Okay.
Right? And you're like telling the story. And then you got through half the story, like the first part, and then you stopped and you're like, okay, now let me tell you the pitch. And here's what it does, and here's why it's better. And actually, you could have just been like, so we did that, so it's like, oh, so, we made something better, and and here's, and then this person who went to go use it and just describe them using it. And so rather than it lets you do this and it gives you vegetarian options and it lets you plan your meal plan, it's like, so instead I have this app, and now when I invited this girl out to go eat, I asked her if she was a vegetarian or not, because I am, and it turns out she was. And at the same time as I'm a vegetarian, I'm also, really trying to bulk up right now too. And so I put that into the app, and and it told me that because I'm a commuter, I should really go to this one. That's I don't know. I'm merging too much stuff, but you actually just kind of like work all that into your story, and you're like, without ever saying like we have this feature and this feature, you're like describing the feature as you use it and like why it was. This just worked in. Oh, that was so much better. So and then again at the end, like there is no spoon. There was no pit. Does anyone know that joke? Am I really old? There is no spoon. All right, I heard The Matrix somewhere. All right, good. All right, yes. There is no pitch. It's just like it's all just telling you a story. Wait, when are you gonna start your pitch? You just got the pitch. So anyway, great job. Really good. Oh wait, sorry. Did you got anything? All right, last one.
Oh damn! I mean, we're doing something a little tangent to Longhorn Eats, so we'll talk later. But cool. Let's get started. Hi guys, I'm Max. I'm a sophomore, and when I first came into UT and I sat down in JCL and I looked at my sad plate of mashed potatoes and what I thought were soggy dino nuggets, I can only come up with one conclusion: that cafeteria food is an absolute abomination. Can I just get a raise of hands? How many up here had been through the JCL or KINS experience? Okay, awesome. So y'all resonate with this experience, right? But the second week in, I was eating with my friend Terrence, and I was like, I can't take this anymore. This is absolutely ridiculous, right? I experienced this issue all from elementary all the way now to college. I had my wits end, which is why we decided to create an app called Melee. Melee collects your app in a survey data in a very fun and engaging way. As you can see, probably one of our most popular apps of the time right now are dating apps. And so why not develop a relationship with your food? Simply swipe right for foods that you like, left for foods that you dislike, up delicious, and down okay. But obviously that's not engaging enough, right? Having just filling out a survey is only part of the experience in general, which is why we wanted to make sure that you could do the best thing possible, compete against your friends. And so we decided to create a leaderboard along with it. How many of y'all have gotten an email from Housing and Dining basically just saying, win a chance to win a gift card? No, I don't buy that. Like, that doesn't appeal to me. Which is why our leaderboard in our contract with schools is completely based on merit, meaning that the top 5 people in the top 1 team, we'll get to that later, will win a reward in the school. Now, besides just competing in leaderboards, it's awesome to have your friends with the app as well, which is why we created a team function for you to be able to have little raccoons with your friends and compete for the top scoreboard as well. All in all, our job is to make sure that survey and user feedback is fun for you, but ultimately it's beneficial for the cafeteria. In our schools that we previously went to, we literally increased student survey feedback from 7 all the way down to 1,000 surveys today. Thank you so much. Enjoy Melee today in the App Store.
Perfect. Oh, wow. All right. Great. You want to go first? You got anything?
I just love his energy.
Great energy.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right, so my partner Gordon here at Capital Factory, who's generally recognized as one of the smartest people here and most helpful, he has a saying that sales, which fundraising is sales, is a transfer of enthusiasm from the seller to the buyer. That's what's actually happening, right? It's not actually always a rational decision. In fact, rarely. It's more about, can you emotionally get them bought into, like, I want to do this. And so you're off to a good start.
Thank you.
Clearly you practiced really good. You've got a real demo. It was entertaining. It was easy to follow along. Clearly you're moving along. I think it was great. Really good pitch. You're gonna start to hear me say over and over and over again. Go ninja mode. You need to make it a story, more of a story.
Yeah,
more than just
and
it's one of those, like, there's this thing called the 5 whys. Eric Ries made it popular. I don't think he invented it, but and it's the idea that, like, when you're trying to figure out something about your product or your customer, you like ask why, and then you get an answer, and then you kind of ask why again, and you get an answer, and you do that 5 times to get to what's the deeper meaning. And in a similar way, like, this tell a story thing is like, tell a story. You're like, okay, now tell a better story. Like, okay, now tell more of a story. Now take that part out, make that part a story. Okay, now make the whole thing a story. Like, and you get to the end and you're like, awesome, now I really got a story. But it really is magic. Like when you do it that way, it's magic. Again, people don't actually even understand what's happening to them. So you're on off to a good start, and great job.
Thank you so much.
All right, that's our 5. So great job. Give me one more second. I'm super impressed. I can't believe that no one was going to pitch. What the heck was that? Like, you guys were all ready to pitch. Those were awesome. Like, they were all awesome. Like, really, like, very good job. I mean, last week was awesome too, but really good job. And 5 actually turned out to be perfect for our timing. And so, I hope we'll see 5 more of you pitching next week. The same 5 can pitch again, and someone else can win $100. But we will give priority if you have not pitched before. So, like, hopefully sign up. It's a lot easier for us if you sign up on the website at pitch.longhornstartup.com. You can invite anybody else that's a student or a professor to come here and pitch. It's like no risk, free pizza, get feedback, maybe get $100. Again, 2 things you're gonna hear from me over and over. Tell a story, make an ask at the end, right? Again, I'm like, what's the whole point of this? Like, 1 is to practice, but like, you got 100 people here, and you got Miss Newton and me, and like whoever else is listening, like, make an ask, like, like, what do you need help with? Who do you need to meet? Like, what do you need? So those things all help. All right, but only 1 person gets $100. And this is hard because those were like really solid pitches. Like, I mean, honestly, like I could easily see giving 3 of you like $100. And I hope the rest of the semester it's that hard. But I'm going to give it to the one that sold the one to UT, the second to last. I think it was second to last. Was that second to last?
Second last.
Mostly because it had the best story, because it really started off as a story. It was the most of the story. And so, key to my heart, tell a story. That's a great part. But where are you? Here you go. You get $100. Sometimes we do Venmo, but I think, real cash is always a little more real. So there you go. So spend it on your date, spend it on Amazon Web Services, whatever you got. All right, thank you very much. That was great. Awesome first pitch class. And we've got a great rest of the semester today. I'm going to introduce Ms. Newton in a minute. We've got Kimberly Newton from Army Futures Command here with us today. And you'll see most of the rest of the semester. It is founder stories, which is going to be very much like today, same thing. But instead of, this is the founder story of Army Futures Command, kind of. But this will be a founder who started a company, talking about their company and their path to entrepreneurship. And I would encourage you to look these people up. Like, I'm super excited to talk to these people. Like, they're awesome. Like, it's hard. I can't just get them to come for anything. I'm using you guys, like, because they'll come talk to the students, But like, again, Justin, Base Power, his co-founder is Zach Dell, Adam Dell's son. It's a badass company, super exciting, like really like, and so ambitious because power and energy is such a big thing, but as analogous to the way that Uber is a car company that doesn't own any cars, and Airbnb is a hotel that doesn't own any hotel beds or any beds. This is a power company that doesn't own any power plants or anything like that. And I think it really has a potential to solve some big problems in our power problems in the country. Liv Bory is so interesting, like one of those like on the like most interesting people you're ever going to meet in your life kind of category. Incredible, smart, poker player / crypto investor / lots of other interesting things. Really, understands risk reward, kind of the trade-offs of being somewhat of like a solo entrepreneur. Walker Druitt was here at this class probably 10 years ago, taking it as a student, starting New Wash Car Wash, leaving. We had taught that class from 6 to 9 p.m. at that time. He would leave at 9 p.m. every night to go wash cars all night and then go take classes during the day. They're now New Brakes. They raised $12 million in their last round of funding that I remember. They're like, it's a real company. Jason Karp owns True Food. I don't know if you guys eat at True Food. I love ordering at True Food. He's done a lot of other things. He's also started Hue Kitchen, HU, which is like a really cool, like organic, healthy chocolate company with his wife, Jessica. And and he's awesome, super interesting, really fantastic. Brian Frezza is a biotech entrepreneur. He's got a biotech lab in the cloud. So in the same way that you submit your code to the cloud to have it run on computers so you don't have to run the computers, you submit your biotech experiments to them to run in their super automated and efficient labs. And you don't have to think about actually running the labs or owning them or doing things like that. And it makes it run really much more efficient and better and faster. We'll have some other more topical-based ones towards the end, and then the last founder story is Dino from Saronic. I mentioned this one, Saronic, one of the companies we're most excited about. We just invested in. They're creating autonomous boats primarily for the Navy right now. Big technology play involving autonomy and AI and vision and all kinds of other things and communications, but then also very relevant with everything going on in China right now, and big demand for building up our naval capacity. And then we will end with I'm not going to do this every week, but I've done this once or twice. So one more last overview. We'll end with the $1,000 speed pitch competition. So every week you can win $100. The last week, somebody wins $1,000. The game is reset. Anybody can win, and that is like for the best pitch on the last day. And then we have Thanksgiving break, and then on the final day we'll have the applications open for the lab before then, and we'll be doing interviews to interview companies to take the lab the next semester. 12 teams gets picked for that. So any questions about any of that? All right. Homework, basic stuff. None of this has changed.
One thing. The lean canvas, just get that in before the end of the semester.
So it's due before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Before the I would say that way.
Yeah.
You can submit it early. It's a one-page thing you fill out. Don't fill it out with like 3 words for each thing. You can pick your company, like your idea. You can pick some idea you're just thinking about. You could even pick another startup you're not part of and try to just write it for that, But that's what you're trying to go do, and it's helping you think about all the different parts of a startup and how you think about it. And it's a great tool you can use over and over again, like a scratch pad, to go think about different business ideas. And then more stuff here on our Slack and other pieces. We're trying to post the videos there, so you can reference them or other things like that. And that's about it. So I'm gonna play, we've got a short video to play as I introduce Ms. Newton. We're gonna introduce her, I'm gonna let her tell her story as part of her background. But I've been very involved with the Army Futures Command since I came here to Austin, now 6 years ago. We just had the 6-year anniversary. And obviously it started a little bit before that. It actually coincided with this 8th floor opening up. With the Army Futures Command, and one part of it, the Army Applications Lab, is our kind of main core big tenant, and that catalyzed many other groups coming here. And I'm just getting to know Ms. Newton. What I've been told is that she came highly recommended. She worked very closely with General Rainey, who's the big general in charge here, the 4-star general who's currently in charge. And so it's always a good sign when somebody who's worked with you before goes and pulls you from somewhere else. And so she's gotten pulled in here now, not the first person, but coming in as he's really setting himself up. This is now the second time in a week I bumped into her at one of these things. So they're making her go talk to everybody, and they're putting her out there a lot, like she's very important. So I think that's my impression is that she's very important. But I'm excited to learn more about exactly what her role is going to be and how she's going to play into it, because I'm pretty plugged into the rest of it. But we haven't had too much of a chance to talk yet about it. But we're going to talk about Army Futures Command, what that means, how it got started, why it's here, what that means for kind of opportunities for startups and for students, and how you can be involved. And you'll get to ask lots of questions too. And as always, we'll be done by 6. And I'd appreciate you all. Bathrooms are right there, but it's like, please stay till the end. All right, so we're gonna play this quick video. Ms. Newton, you can come on up here, and we'll get started. Do we have audio?
This
And
is
do
Army
we have one more
Futures
microphone?
Command. team of over 19,000, including soldiers, scientists, engineers, and other dedicated professionals, all committed to transforming the Army to ensure war-winning future readiness. The command has 3 priorities that support our purpose: prioritizing people, designing Army 2040, and delivering Army 2030. We execute 6 essential functions in pursuit of our priorities: assessing the future operational environment, research, concepts, experimentation, requirements, and integration. We work hard every day, along with the Joint Force and multinational partners, to design and deliver integrated solutions that result in formation-based lethality and dominant land forces. We also know that people are our strength, and that they will remain our asymmetric advantage from now to 2040 and beyond. We are committed to ensuring the best talent management system and quality of life for our soldiers, civilians, and their families. For us, Be All You Can Be is a way of life and a persistent reminder to deliver cutting-edge capabilities. Deterring and, if necessary, defeating our adversaries requires a sense of urgency, a commitment to working together across the Joint Force and partners so that we can keep soldiers safe and America strong, because tomorrow is worth protecting.
Awesome. All right, so you've got a few things to watch beforehand. That was one of them. That was just a quick refresher. I can share some of this myself because I was part of. I've been part of this story as well, and really honored to be able to have that opportunity. But let's just, Kim, since we haven't really gotten to know each other that well and just met last week, tell me a little bit about your story. Like, how did you end up here in Austin, sitting up here on stage with me?
All right. So actually 15 years ago, I was a music teacher. So I taught high school all the way to pre-K music.
My mom was also a school teacher, and
very nice.
Huge respect for that. Thank you
yes,
for that too.
Huge respect for school teachers. That is definitely a calling. But I taught high school band, music appreciation. I'm sure a lot of you, at least to get your music credit done, right, before you got into college. But I taught on a installation, a military installation, and decided I wanted to serve in a different way. So I've never been in uniform. I'm Army civilian. Technically right now I'm a senior executive. I'm the equivalent of a general officer, but I started as what they call a GS7. So basically I made less than a teacher when I came into the Army, and I worked my way up, and I did a lot of cool things. I was stationed at Fort Bragg. It's now Fort Liberty in North Carolina. Anybody been to North Carolina? Anybody have military family members? No one in the military? Army, Navy?
Well, 2 different questions. So being to Fort Bragg and
well, it's true. Being to Fort Bragg, Fayetteville.
Who has family or people in the military? Not that many?
Not that many.
I'll tell you funny, in Texas, and I realize we had a big mix here, not necessarily all from Austin or from Texas, but one thing about Texas is it's much more common, I find, than a lot of other places for people to know people who are in some way connected.
Absolutely. So anyway, as Josh mentioned, I actually just left the Pentagon, where I worked with General Rainey, who's our 4-star here in Austin. And then he said, hey, you should come down to Austin. It's a really, really cool place. There's a lot of opportunity. And Futures Command is a place that really is home to people who think differently about military problems. The problems aren't new. The way we think about them, the way that we fix them and solve them is. And so that's really one of the reasons we wanted to come and talk with you guys today, is really because you guys sitting there hopefully in the next couple of years will be part of our story and helping us to solve really hard problems, whether it's for the Army or the Navy, or however you choose to do that through a startup that provides a critical capability, or there's plenty of options if you guys ever decide you want to join our team. But that's a little bit about me. It was an interesting journey. It's never been boring, but I will tell you, I'm just finishing up my first year here in Austin, and I'm really, really loving it. We were very involved in South by Southwest. Actually got to mediate some panels and things here. really love spending time in this space. Also getting ready to, now that the school year has started, spending a lot of time with college students across the country. So academic research and academic outreach is something that falls under me. We are also the front door, we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but for any of the industry, that's small business, startups, all of those things. So we get to go out and look at all the cool things that people are developing and figure out how we can get you guys involved with us. So just a little bit about me.
That's perfect. Okay, so what's your job at Army Futures Command?
So my job, I am the
I just want to, she said general officer, which may have brushed over things, but that's a general. You know, they talk about Army generals. So she said basically, so she's an SES. This is all the lingo I've learned. An SES is like basically a really important civilian who gets to order people around like a general. Not that I'm saying she orders anybody around, but yeah, like when she you know, like when she shows up in the room, it's like a one-star general being there. And generals are really big, BFD. You know, they're a big deal. So.
Thank you. So I'm the Deputy Director of Integration. It's a brand new organization. When I got here last year, General Rainey said, here, this is what you're gonna do. Now build it. So the Army is, number one, not known for being really quick to change, right? But the Army is one of the first innovators, you know, on the ground. So what we do is we work on basically what the future Army will look like, the concept. We talk about what kinds of cool tech that we need to make it happen. What do we need to go out there and find? What types of experimentation do we put that through, right? Because any idea that we bring in has to be tested, right? You have to work through all of the kinks, but then also too, think about the ways that it can be applied, right? So we talk about that, we connect all of these things, and then at the end of the day, I say we decide to take your app, right? And we want to give that to every soldier in the Army, right? So
how many soldiers is that?
Oh, 500 plus thousand. It's always in flux, but
plus contractors, I heard.
Plus contractors, plus civilians, right? So it's a huge force. The Army is
one of the biggest employers, yeah,
that's right.
In the country.
Army is
the world.
Largest service. So if we wanted to take your Melee app, right, and we want to put that, so then we think about how then can we help you improve that? How can we make that a requirement so that everybody has to have it? And then how do we iterate and make it better every time? So we connect all of those things together. So basically you take an idea, you test it, you figure out how you're going to apply it, and then you determine what are all of the things that we need to make sure that it continues to improve, and then how do we make sure that it's a requirement so everybody has to use it. And so that's really at the bottom line what my job is. And like the video said, there's 17,500 employees in Futures Command, not here in Austin, it's about 500, but globally. So I do that work with people all across the country, but I also work with our partners in UK. I'm headed actually Sunday to Australia to do that with some of our Australian partners. We work with France, we work with Canada, tons of allies all across the globe. And so they're always interested in what we buy, right? We're just as interested in what they buy, but they're always interested in what we buy.
Like as if the Army buys it. So
yes.
The US Army, then like the UK Army's like, well,
yeah.
Like, we probably want to use some of those too.
That's right.
Right? You know, like
absolutely.
Australia's like, well, we'll buy some of those. You know, like they want to be using the same things we are.
Right. Absolutely. And so then we bring something to a big exercise. They're like, hey, where'd you get that? Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you where we got that and how you can get it too. So that's a lot of what we do. So.
Awesome. So, you know, we talk about the Army Futures Command and their goal. One of the ways I've heard it talked about is being kind of like their job is to look in the range of 30 years out in the future. I don't know if that number's still about right, but you know, like, because there's people building things like, what do we need next year? What do we need? Well, they don't do that year. They've already got that figured out. But what do we need 5 years from now? That's kind of short term for them, right? So 30 years is like what can we imagine? And then I'm actually flying tonight to DC. I'm going to see DARPA. DARPA's kind of like, they're kind of like the furthest out like research projects kind of stuff, maybe a little even further than that. And so I'm curious, and it's totally okay if you have not heard had a chance to see this yet, but by any chance have you read or heard of the book 2034 by Admiral Strivitus?
I just started 2054.
I haven't gotten to 54 yet. Okay, so you read it. That's the sequel. So great, perfect. So I was reading that, and I've really enjoyed it. I've met once I've had the chance to meet Admiral Strivitus. He was here in Austin, and it's very impressive. He's a big admiral in the Navy, but he was also the Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, which is a very cool title for the person in charge of NATO.
Yep.
That's the name of the
books.
books.
That's the name of them.
2034. What? What are they about? I'm about to tell you. Yeah. And so the reason I thought it was really interesting is so they're the dates. They're talking about the year 2034 and the year 2054. And in the first one, 2034, it's this admiral who's like been head of NATO and kind of knows what's going on and can imagine these things. And he's written a bunch of other books about history, like history of sea battles and history of ships and things like that. But this is a science fiction book about the future. And he's writing a story about when China, and I'll use the word attacks loosely because they don't start by shooting guns, but when China attacks the US and how they do that. And again, it doesn't start with shooting guns. How does it start? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
It starts when one of our planes, or one of our F-16s, suddenly starts flying somewhere else, and the pilot can't control it. And they cyber hacked the plane and took it over and flew it somewhere. And then they go and they're doing something in the sea where that's where there's a lot of the contested area. And the US boat that's supposed to be stopping them and shooting at them, it just basically shuts down. Like they can't shoot, they can't do anything, their comms are down, everything, and the boat goes down. Because again, they got hacked, not because they got outgunned. And then there's stuff happening in space, and then another really, just to jump to the end, I think another interesting dynamic of it, which I'm starting to hear more about now, is that surprisingly at that time, India ends up being negotiating the peace between the U.S. and China and de-escalating it. Not a role that personally I would have expected to hear right now, but in the context of it all made sense. And so it's just interesting to hear. It's just a story, but it makes you think about these things and think about it's not necessarily nuclear weapons or all these planes shooting at these other planes,
Right, or these tanks that are, driving across. And that's one of the biggest things as we, as Josh said, we're looking out into the future. And right now we talk about the Army of 2040, but it's really 2040 and beyond. What does that look like? And you're talking about cyber warfare, you're talking about hacking, you're talking about, getting your best coders that can, think fast, solve problems, and develop things that are going to give, the U.S. an edge. And so one of the things I tell people when I go places, we're always going to have people that drive tanks. We always need nurses. We always need, food services. But now we need coders. We need hackers. I don't know if anybody's been to the software factory that's here in Austin. That is.
Does anybody know what software factory is? Yeah.
Do you? Oh, great.
Can you tell us what it is?
Yeah.
I guess the overall broad idea is that it is sort of the future R&D center of any military force. A lot of stuff to do is sort of autonomous state interactions, things like robots or even other large scale thinking, how do you make it control things like that.
So they're building a bunch of tech, and it's Army people doing it. And from what I understand, what's really different about it is most of the time when the Army wants to build something, they write a proposal, a spec, and they hire a contractor to go build it. And what was so innovative and revolutionary about this for the Army, and I don't know where they came up with the name Software Factory. I don't know. They were working on it here in Austin after we met. They were here at Capital Factory. And I don't know where they came up with the name, but yeah, they said we need to make a place where we have where actually we have our soldiers who are really talented, and a lot of them know how to do things and want to learn how to code. And let's teach them how to code so
Right.
they can go build things and they can go solve problems too. Is that
That's
pretty
exactly
accurate?
what it is. It is all staffed by military members, and there's a couple civilians over there too, but those are military coders that we are, they came in to the military, that's what they wanted to do, and now we are building pathways for them to go out into other places. So we do cohorts of soldiers at Software Factory. They're there for 18 months, 2 years, depends on the time frame. They write code and apps and things for the Army. One of the coolest things they just wrote for the Chief of Staff of the Army, he is like the 4-star, but
That's the one in the top general.
yes, the top general in DC, and so for the Army. And they wrote a really cool app that shows you all of the services on an installation. And you can go in there and look at any installation and find all of these different things. And one of the coolest things is, do you know, well, one of the biggest things for the Army, do you know what a Gold Star family is?
I do. That's a family who's had a family member killed in service, right?
That's right. So they had a family member, killed in line of duty. And one of the big things that app does is for Gold Star families, they can go in and they can line out all of the benefits and things that they are, that the Army provides for them, right? And so that's just one of the cool things that it does. And so we have the Software Factory here in Austin. And we also have the AI2C Center. So how many of you guys are like totally into artificial intelligence? Anybody think that's super cool?
That was a big buzzword last week.
All right, so artificial intelligence, there is a cohort that we host, or that we sponsor. It's all military out at Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh.
My alma mater.
There we go. And super cool place. And so those soldiers are in that cohort, and they're writing AI applications, not just for the Army, everybody, all the services across the DoD, call them and say, hey, this is my problem, right? So I think one of the biggest things is if you guys, and you wouldn't be here if you didn't like solving problems, right? One of the things that the Army's trying to do is solve problems faster, without spending a million years to develop a solution, right? Like, okay, everybody, what's, the first thing you think about when you think the Army, I think of a tank, right? 30 years to build a tank and decide that it's perfect. But in app world, would you ever take 30 years to build something? Some of you probably don't even take 30 days, right? I don't know anything about it. I was a music teacher, I counted to 4, I started over, so I'm not a mathematician, but that is something that we're trying to get into, and really trying to recruit and work with people like you. So whether it's in a startup, or whether you decide, hey, I would love to serve our country in a different way, whether it's in uniform, whether you want to be a civilian, a contractor, just to bring your expertise into the Army. But we also, so we have the AI2C Center up in Pittsburgh, but right down there on this floor, we have the Army Applications Lab. And that is one of the coolest things about AFC. And they specialize in working with startups, just like AFWorks that's here in the Capital Factory, just like NavalX. DIU is another government DoD company or agency that works with startups and small businesses. Their goal is to talk to you about your ideas and find ways to, find funding for those things. And there's lots of different ways, right? You can do small business innovation research funds, right? Has anybody ever heard of that? It's called SBIR. But there's lots of different ways that you can look at that, right? And like I said, if it, go ahead.
So let's keep going through those. So they're really looking out to the future. Of course, you have to think about like we need like missiles that go further, or
Right.
target better, or things like that. And like some obvious uses of AI would be like we have all these satellite photos, like tell us what's going on, or what are some of the uses like of that the Army might be working with small businesses, with startups that aren't companies that you think of as like a defense contractor building guns? What kind of
Well-
problems do you have other than?
Right now, well, as we met last week, right? Microelectronics, supply chains, those types of things. Those are challenges that we're finding that are a big problem, right? And so, looking at
So microelectronics would be, if you had a new chip
right,
that could be developed out of a different material that didn't require
absolutely
stuff we can only get in China.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so, obviously not a missile, but like UASs, right? Little drones. It's huge
So-
in the Army right now.
Drones can do all kinds of different things.
Right.
But most of the drones that you buy at the store are built in China.
Right.
Right.
So really trying to find ways to purchase and procure all of that here in the US. Anything you can put on a drone, whether it's a bomb or whether it's life-saving, I don't know.
It could be a camera.
It could be
delivery
a
of
camera.
medicine.
It could be, medicine. It could be whatever, right? And so you can put anything on a robot. That is already, you've got a leg up. Because robots and how we utilize them in the future, it's a huge piece of what we're looking at now. We're not looking to buy or to build really, really big things. We're looking at putting small things on the big things we already have. So if you can build something that launches a UAS or a drone or a robot, those little creepy dog robots from the video, those are really big right now too. But trying to think of anything else that we have that are kind of non-standard.
So you have this huge fleet of vehicles, right?
Mhm.
And you have to know when are they going to break down? When did they need maintenance? And there's
Right.
companies that they call predictive maintenance, right? Like
Yes.
modeling what's going to happen with the vehicles.
Predictive logistics, yeah. So
You have all these people, right? And you have to take care of all these employees.
Yep.
And they have payroll, they have HR problems, they have,
Yes.
right? All those same.
all those
right?
same problems in
yeah.
a business of managing lots of people.
Are all of your IT systems really modern and up to date? Or do you ever use any paper or faxes or anything?
Yeah, we still have our trusty fax
There's
machine.
opportunities to do
sadly.
some of those things. Yeah,
That's right.
There's a lot of things. So when the Army came here, they really picked Austin. They were looking at Boston, at Raleigh, North Carolina, at Austin. They were not looking at Silicon Valley because Silicon Valley's kind of snubbed their nose at them. But they were looking at all these different places, and really, a big part of what they wanted was they wanted to engage with the community. They wanted to feel welcome. But two, they were looking for startups. They were not looking for government startups.
Mm-mm.
There weren't many of them anyway. And if you called yourself a government startup, you're really like a bunch of people that used to work at a really big company and just left and are trying to make another big company. And they're trying to get out of that model, get into a more efficient, faster, better way to go do it and work with real startups. And so what I thought was actually pretty brilliant, it didn't make sense to me at the time, was they came here. We didn't have any companies working with the Army. None. I didn't know of any single one. We had one, Aptronic, who now has done some work with you, was
Right.
building a robot for NASA. That was kind of cool. They were building a robot to go into space. But no, there was nobody doing anything with the Army and almost nothing like that. And but what they did realize is that there was a really vibrant community of entrepreneurs working on all kinds of different things. And what I've been shocked by is how many companies that never thought of themselves as an Army company or a government company or
Right.
anything like that, but have found oh wow, I'm building drones that help manage crops or that help inspect solar panels or wind turbines, or I have a robot that can really precisely machine and screw drills into plane as you're assembling a plane or cleaning it. And these are all problems that are commercial problems, but also big industry problems too. Or sorry, big military problems too.
3D printing is also a really big
Everywhere.
thing that and I see your hand, but one of the big things we talk about when I said supply chains, right, is, trying to get to the point where, we're using 3D printing to build, to print repair parts, right? So then you just ship materials instead. So those types of things as well. It's not just, as Josh said, missiles and bullets and, all of those soldier type things.
We just actually, I can name on like one hand the number of companies we have that you would think of as they're like a military company. Like that's not really Target or what we're particularly good at. But one of them, we just got one, I actually think is super cool, and it's a smart bullet. They actually started it creating a smart arrow for hunting. And it's because if you do bow hunting, and I'm not a big hunter at all, but if you do bow hunting, apparently, even if you get the animal, about half the time it runs away still. It takes it a long time to die, and so you can't find it, and then it's kind of a shame because you killed the animal and you can't, eat it or take care of it or whatever, and you don't know what happened. And so the idea is that the arrow is also like a homing beacon. You can track the animal. And not only that, then they were like, you know what? We can put something in it and we can tell if the animal is alive or not. Because it can sense whether the animal has died. And so you get all this kind of data from the thing. And then they were like, wow, actually you could put that in a bullet too. And it has just a ton of huge advantages. And there's a lot of non-military applications, believe it or not, for hunters and things like that. But obviously suddenly you have a smart bullet that can do really cool things. And imagine knowing whether or not it's kind of like playing a video game and knowing what really worked and oh yeah, we got them, we didn't get it, did you hit them or not, so that's a very rare example for us. Another one is a company called Red 6. That one was Nantrack. Red 6 has a augmented reality system. It's an augmented reality helmet for fighter pilots. They wear it while they're flying a real plane. And so they're flying a real plane and getting the full experience of flying a real plane. But through their visor, they see fake planes that they're fighting. And so then they're playing, dodging them and firing at them, but not real bullets, and shooting at them. And if they, would have shot them and they see them blow up, But if you think about it, it's very expensive just to fly the plane. It's really expensive if you have to blow up other stuff, or actually shoot bullets and stuff. And so super smart. Probably there's a use case for actually using it to train pilots for airlines and things like that too.
So one of the applications.
But its main use to start is military. But it's super interesting, really cool.
Right. And one other application we use is actually maintenance. So that same visor, you put that on, you look, say at a helicopter, it shows you in the virtual reality space exactly how to fix that. It shows you exactly what your manual is, those types of things. We're looking at that too for soldiers on the ground, right? So they have that whole interface in front of them, and it's all based on game theory, right? Because also too, you have to talk about one of the things that we also work on is human performance, right? How much can your brain take? And those types of things, we do a lot of work in that augmented,
not just how much weights can you lift.
Yeah, not just how many weights you can lift, but at what point do we overload your brain, right? What's too much? I mean, how many of you guys are video gamers? I won't tell you which one I used to play, but I was a pretty hardcore gamer a long time ago. But not very many, right?
They're not raising their hands.
Come on, raise your hands.
These are
video games? Come
arms,
on.
I can't
Calvin,
get them up
I know
so
you
high.
are. Okay, thank you. Sorry, so I was a World of Warcraft player when it was cool. But think about all of the different things that you have, that you're tracking, right, when you're playing, especially if you're playing with other people. So not only do we build and look for companies that build those types of capabilities, but then it's also building the game, right? We build a whole entire synthetic training environment, and that literally, it's a ton of teams going out and actually, scanning real terrain and everything, but then we put all of that into the virtual. And, there's a virtual space for pretty much everywhere on the planet right now, right? And we're constantly learning and improving. The battle in Ukraine right now, that's one of the reasons why the Army is starting to try to get faster in what they do, right? The stuff that they're doing over there.
Because we're learning from them.
Right, exactly. And so when you have
necessity is the mother of innovation.
That's right. That real world conflict where we technically are not involved directly, right?
Not involved, but try this.
Exactly. Maybe you might want to see what you can do with that. But, you know, and everybody is launching a missile from their shoulder, right? And so those types of things, we are trying to become a much more rapidly changing and learning organization. And that's how we do that, by bringing people like you to the table with us as, you know, as entrepreneurs and the ideas that you have. And so it's that's again one of the reasons why we're here in Austin, because it really we looked at Boston, we looked at Raleigh, North Carolina, we looked all over, and Austin was just one of the best. It was just the best place. And it didn't matter that there were a bunch of big companies. We knew that the big companies would come. We wanted a space that would actually then have that grassroots capacity or have that entrepreneurial spirit that Austin has. And it's pretty amazing. It is one of the coolest things. And so after 6 years, I mean, we're just really excited to be here. And this is, again, one of the reasons why we try to do a lot of work with the universities. One of the things that we're also doing is building a robotics certification program at UT Austin. One thing, and hopefully you don't boo me.
Is anybody part of that?
Well, we're still building it.
Okay,
We're still building it. But if you guys are interested, let me know. But and don't boo me, but we are doing something here in a couple months down at Texas A&M. But, gig 'em. I went to A&M. But anyway.
What? You didn't tell me that.
I know, right? Sorry. Oops. But we are hosting an academic day and bring in students from, you know, universities all over to talk about internships, you know, jobs. How can you be involved with the Army? We've got a lot of tech and stuff that we're coming in. Futures Command also employs about probably 80% of the scientists and the engineers in the Army.
So all the big R&D labs.
Yes, all of the big research development. So actually I was talking today to Dr. Petrock. She is one of the names in warhead technology. And the stuff, number one, she's a little scary. Number two, she's super cool. What she wants to, like, you know, I'm just glad I'm not an enemy, because the stuff that she comes up with is really amazing. And so we're bringing a bunch of those people out. But one of the other things, and I'll make sure that Josh has the information, is that we host kind of like events, outreach events, every month or so. And what we're going to do is bring a bunch of those scientists, those engineers in. And what I'd like to do is maybe have your class come, and you guys could just pepper them with questions. We'll have food, we'll have drinks, and you can talk to them about any and everything, like hard problems that they're trying to solve, things they're working on, cool projects they're doing, because that's really what Army Futures wants to do as well. We want to partner with the universities and kind of talk about hard problems and things, because we know we don't have the answer. You guys are the ones that are going to come up with that.
All right, so I hope you guys have been thinking of some questions. I'm going to ask her 2 more. We're going to, I hate doing this because it's hard to control, so I'm going to count on you guys to make this happen fast, but I've smelled the pizza. I bet you do too. So then I'm going to take like a 5-minute break. And actually maybe, I might even ask you guys to help. Maybe you can even like bring the pizza out. Like help just like get it from everybody waiting in line to like, maybe a terrible idea, you can decide. But we're trying to get the pizza distributed as quickly as possible to anybody who wants it. And then we're going to open it up to you for the questions for the remainder of the time that we have. Okay, so please think about your questions. So after the pizza, thank you. We'll hold it, we got it. So my last 2 questions. So one, talking about problems you have and things that people get involved in. Hopefully, I do not have any security clearances. So I don't believe I can say anything inappropriate, but if I do, just like tell me to stop, or like, you know, just I don't know acronyms, but one thing I hear about all the time is C2 Next. Is that, can we explain a little bit of like what that kind of problem is and why that's seems to be such a big initiative, just as an example of like,
Right.
here's an Army problem, like we're trying to figure out, you know?
Okay, so C2 Next is command and control, right? So at the heart of what that means is that you've got units on a battlefield, right? And then you have, say that Josh is their commander, and he needs to communicate with all of those units, right? At the same time, right? We're gonna take out a target, we're going to take lives. Pretty important, right? And the problem that the Army is having right now is that we don't have reliable systems in place that we've purchased and put together that will let us talk to everybody, like everybody in our own Army, much less if we're in a full-scale battle, right, with allies. So if we want to talk to the UK or we want to talk to France or whoever, we have no chance of talking with them, right, consistently. And so C2 Next, or Next Generation Command and Control, is exactly that. How do we get that to the point where we have just the right amount of hardware, but it really is software-based, so that we can rapidly improve it over time, and you don't have to continually replace all of your hardware. So it's more of a plug and play from that perspective, but then your software is what drives it.
So getting all these things to work together is really hard.
Yes.
So when I'm imagining this, I'm imagining some movie about like nuclear war,
Yep.
and they're all in some massive command center inside of NORAD, and when, you know, like the big mountain, you know, where they go to prepare for nuclear war, and there's these massive big screens up, and you can see everything happening at once, right?
That's
And
right.
it's like, here's where all they are, and there's the nuclear missiles, and there's our ships flying, and like you're contacting them, and there's different stations for everybody, and like, is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
All right, we've all seen that in a movie sometime. Or we're coming, just a second.
Yes.
All right, cool. So like that's an example. Like now there's smaller problems too. Like Apptronic, one of our best companies here, it's a robotics company that I'm the one that worked with NASA. They're really good at robots, and in particular at the time, they've done a lot since then. They just had a really good arm. They had this one arm that was like really efficient and like low power, like didn't need as much power, and it was actually, for the way it worked, it was very safe. That was actually a really important part of it. It was much safer. If something went wrong, it wouldn't like fall on you. And so it's something that that people, these are all things I never knew of before, but if you're working in the military and you have some like big, like, not necessarily a tank, but like, or maybe a tank, but either a tank or like a thing with like a big rocket launcher on it. Well, it's got the rocket launcher, but then you need to carry like a whole bunch of rockets, right? And the rockets are like these big, like 100-pound metal, you know, big bullets, right? And guess what? When like they need to load up the truck, they're like, hey guys, go load all those onto the truck.
Right.
And they're picking up bombs, like, you know, like having to carry them and put them on the truck. And one, they hope they don't drop them. And two, it's like, it's kind of backbreaking, you know, like it's like really like it's a lot of work, like it's hard.
That's
and
right.
so having a robotic arm that can safely literally just like pick them up and put them on the truck, you know, like really fast. And do that safely, and if the power goes out, it doesn't drop them. You know, like that was like a really cool application that they were able to do, and it didn't necessarily become the thing that made the company like, you know, they've gone on to make fully walking around robots and stuff that are like really cool, but that helped them get the funding to develop the technology to get the arm to the next spot so they could make the whole robot, so they could, you know, do the whole thing.
Well, and I'm sure you guys have all seen those movies, right, where, you know, there's fighter planes and there's some kind of robot or something that's making the decision, right? That's pushing the button, that's dropping the bomb. Anybody seen those, right?
War Games.
I was gonna say,
Way dating myself.
if you've ever seen a White House Down movie, you've seen that, right? So anyway, that doesn't happen because that type of a decision is not something that the military is gonna let a robot make. So one of the things that we work on is called human-machine integration, and it's deciding what kinds of things robots can do so that humans can spend time doing what they need to do, right? Making those value judgments like that, and what we call practicing the art of command. And so that's one of the hardest problems that we're working with right now. And the Apptronic piece, I mean, that's where they're working in that space with us, and there's a lot of other, I make fun of the robot dogs, but you know, there's all kinds of different things that we're looking at, from little bitty tiny robots to, to big, huge humanoid robots, to do things.
And robot boats like Saronic.
Right, absolutely. And I will, one thing that General Rainey will always tell you, like I said, if you can put it on a robot, he's all about it. And because that is the preferable delivery system, right? Because it saves lives. You don't want to trade blood for first contact. You don't want that soldier to die because a robot could run that in. And if that dog, all right, we lost a dog. All right, let's put another one in. And so those are the kinds of things. But also, too, the biggest problem behind the robot thing is building the architecture to make all of the robots work together. And that's something, it's a really hard problem. We're actually going to talk about, I started about the Texas A&M thing. We're going to talk about that problem down there. And I'll make sure that you guys get the info. If any of you guys would like to come, we'd love to have you come down so you can interface with a bunch of soldiers, a bunch of other people, and hear about some hard Army problems. Because as you guys start thinking about startups and different things, I mean, nobody had a clear defense topic today, right? But every single one of those, I sat there thinking, how would I apply that in the defense space? Because now I will tell you, dealing with defense sometimes is a pain, right? We are not easy customers, but we are some of the best and most reliable customers, right? And so that's just something I would put in your mind as you guys start thinking about things that you want to do. And we have tons of people that we'd love to, put in front of you if you have questions and things like that.
All right. So now we're going to try an experiment that I'm scared about, but we're going to try our best, because I definitely want to make the best use of this time we have here with Miss Newton. But we have the pizza over there. Let's try to do this in 5 minutes. Would love for you to, don't want to waste the pizza. Would love for you to get a snack. Please go up, grab some pizza, come back to your seats as quickly as you can. We'll take a quick break, and then we will let you ask your questions. What, the pizza?
No. So it's international relations and business. I specialize in business. So like Apple classes and kind of like the liberal arts sort of thing. Oh yeah. They sell that. So you usually just because I don't want to figure out just because I don't
All right, let's all try to get seated and we'll get started. Thanks for being quick. We're right on time, but want to make sure we get to your questions. You can see I bribed them. Money, pizza, off campus. I don't promise straight A's. Everything else. All right, so we're going to jump into some of your questions for the last 30 minutes. And Everett has the mic, so he'll bring it around to you so that it'll be a little easier for everyone to hear the questions. So please go ahead and raise your hand, and I'm going to let Everett pick who answers the questions. And I'm going to let you hold the mic and jump in if I need to.
So, is the mic working? Or?
I guess the first question was, why did you guys first try to expand? Must be green. Hold on. Yep. Alright, just say it loud. Alright. I guess the first question, like sort of with 6 questions that when you guys made the Army's Future Command, why did you guys try to expand out the the different national labs like Los Alamos or LLNL, or expand out DARPA and the NSF projects to incorporate startups?
So why didn't we do that? Right. Well, so the idea was that we needed a 4-star command to take lead for those types of actions. And honestly, when the Army did this, there wasn't a thought of, hey, we should make DARPA bigger, we should make this, we should make that, because Futures Command, honestly, is the Army's biggest experiment. It is the biggest change the Army's made since 1973. And like Josh said, we didn't want to change everything all at once. And so this has been very much a gradual thing. But DARPA, those national labs, they have a place. They do things really, really well. What we wanted to do is have a 4-star headquarters that could kind of start to normalize that work with startups and small business instead of so much just the primes. No, and that was really kind of the thought behind it.
Yeah, and I'll just add, we mentioned a bunch of buzzwords when we talked about who's here and how there's the Army here, the Army Futures Command, AFWorks, which is the Air Force, and NavalX, which is the Navy. Some of them are kind of obvious. Then DIU, that's the Defense Innovation Unit, which is the Department of Defense, which you'd think was like somehow already covered here, but no, that's actually a different organization that's bigger, that encompasses all of them, that as much as each of them has their own different groups, and within the Army there's probably even a few different groups, that within the Army Futures Command, but that DIU is trying to then, how can I help coordinate all these different groups, right, and do it across the DoD. And so just like working with Microsoft or Google is actually like working with 25 different companies. There's like, well, like which part of Google are you working with? And which part of Microsoft are you selling to? Because it's not one company. It's actually like really a kind of a bunch of different. Amazon is like Amazon Web Services, and then like the Amazon the bookstore, and no one says that anymore, but and like they have a bunch of other businesses, right? Groceries, Whole Foods, and so yeah, what part of the business? And the Army's like that too, like not just the DoD. I mean, the DoD is like that. There's like the Army and the Air Force are like completely different, separate organizations. When you go sell something in the Army and then you go sell it to the Air Force, like go to the Army first, of course. But in a similar way, even just within the Army, it's like, well, you talking to Army Futures Command? Are you talking to some research lab? Are you talking to? And then NASA's something different. DARPA's something different, right? So they each have their own groups, and they don't have authority to go change DARPA, right? Like they can only change what they can change what they got and then try to manage up, right? But so anyway, just bigger picture.
We partner with all of those national labs with DARPA. So as we go out and we talk with businesses and we see something, then we absolutely will go to them and say, hey, what do you have going on? Because now we see something in, the small business startup space that actually might be better. That's one of the hard conversations we have across partners. So that's another reason why they didn't just expand them to do this.
Awesome question.
Hello, thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure having you. I have one question regarding strategic decisions. So I know that you use technology like to protect soldiers, for instance, but do the people that take decisions as well use technology like data science or past events to take better decisions?
So how do we make strategic decision making?
Yeah, like are you part of it? Like, do you help them?
Mm-hmm. So one of the other things that I do is how we integrate and leverage data. One of the things that the Army and the military has no shortage of is data, and that's another piece. If anybody has good ideas, I want to hear it. But what we do is we take data from all different places, right, and make sure that we bring that together so that it lays out, as we talk about risk, as we talk about what are the options that you have to help then our highest leaders make strategic decisions based on that. So we were talking about Ukraine just a little bit ago, and we've been taking all kinds of data. Like we said, we learn how we buy things, what kinds of things we buy, and then we take all of that together to inform future decisions in that space. Do you want to add, or okay? Does that answer it? Yes.
So I had a quick question about how does the Army Futures Command support startups, especially with initiatives to support defense projects, and also especially like bidding, because bidding is handled by bidding is a very competitive process. How do you support startups through that process, and how does your interactions with capital factories like that?
Yes. So our inject for that is Army Applications Lab, right? And which right there past the plants. And they're the ones that interface through Futures Command with startups, small businesses, even some medium-sized companies. And I talked a little bit earlier about that SBIR, that Small Business Innovation Research money. And AAL will meet with you, talk about your idea, and then help you work out how you apply for those types of money. We also have science and technology money. That's what our labs and centers use. We have some of that as well that's available for any size company, honestly, depending on what your idea is. But that front door is Army Applications Lab. That's why we built them, and that's why they're here at Capital Factory alongside Naval X and AFWorks, and then we also work with DIU in some specific spaces, right? They're already doing that. So that's the easiest way, the best way that AFC, that Futures Command works with startups. And we're pretty successful. They're always looking at different ways to find great companies and to get them money.
Yeah, so just building on that, normally for a startup, for any business to work with the government, it's a pretty complicated process. There's a bunch of rules on purpose because the government has to be fair, right? They can't just talk to somebody and give them a contract. That's not allowed. They have to go talk to a bunch of people and put it out on a bid and make sure everybody gets to see it. And they have to look at all the bids, and then they have to pick the cheapest one. That's actually the rules. So that's normally the way government purchasing works, and that's why you have to make these really big companies to go do it, to comply with it, to make it work. But the government also knows that it's good for the economy. It's good for our country, for them because they spend a lot of money, to spend money on small businesses, because small businesses really help our economy. And they also know that actually small businesses come up with good ideas. So if they make it impossible to work with small businesses, they're making it impossible to get the good ideas. So they're trying to balance that at the same time. So that's where they came up with this Small Business Innovation Research Grant. Why is it a grant? Because they're not buying anything from you. They're giving you a grant, right? And it's a special thing to award grants to small businesses. But from your perspective as a startup, it's like they're buying something from you. They're just, the way they buy it from you and not have to go bid it to all the big companies and everything else is to do it through one of these grants. And so they have these things, they do a lot of these grants. Now that said, working with each is different. Like the Air Force, it's a little bit easier to get them kind of look at something they weren't already thinking about and give you a grant. The Army's a little bit more focused in that way, and there's different trade-offs for that. Obviously, it's nice to be able to get get funding for just more of an idea. But one of the trade-offs, one of the reasons why the Army focuses that way, and I think DIU focuses this way, is they try to say, first of all, before we just give you money for an idea, a little bit of money, let me try to make sure we got a lot of money down the road that if this works, I can actually pay for it later. Because for them, even if they find something that works, they can't always it might take them 2 years to get the money to pay for it, and in that time your startup died. And so they're trying to make sure they're hey, before we tell you go run with this, is this in the general area of things that if you found something really good, this is a big priority for us, and we can put a whole bunch of money behind it, right? So that's how I'd kind of position the differences. And so yeah, it's that's where you want to know what are the big things they're worried about, what are the big things on their radar, so that you're proposing something that not only is just a good idea for them, but 2 years ago somebody said it was a good idea and said let's set aside a whole lot of money for this, so that you're not having to wait 2 or 3 years, even once you convince them it's a good idea, which is not startup timing, right? So there's this kind of balance of hey, I've got this really good idea. And look, if you invent I was going to say nuclear fusion, but I think we're kind of getting that already. But if you invent that next big thing that
Figure out quantum.
Yeah, if you got the quantum thing or whatever, yeah, they'll make magic happen probably to be the first to go do it. But most things aren't like that. Most things, even if it's really good, it's okay, it's going to take us, now that you convince us it's a good idea, to really get that into the budget we're making right now is for 3 years from now. So So yeah, if you wanted to, the best thing to do is to pick something where they made that decision 3 years ago. And it's like, boom, I got it. And they're like, oh man, we've been looking for that. Go, 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 right? And that's part of the balancing act everyone's trying to figure out here, right?
Right. Well, and like what Josh said is, so the Army is very deliberate about, we have priorities that we're looking for, in specific areas. And so that SBIR money, initially, it's really just like a paper. And you get some money to go out and you kind of build a research paper, right? And you have to come back. And then based on that and the bid process and everything, you can move up in different phases. But by the time you reach the third phase, you're looking at, you don't have to compete like you would for normal things. You can get a sole source contract because you've been through the process. And like Josh said, it's not easy, but that's why we built Army Applications Lab, to then have specialists in there to work with startups and help you guys, work through those things and know what to do. The other piece is a lot of times they'll see different startups come in and say, you know what, you've got a piece of this that's really cool. You've got a piece of this that's really cool. Why don't you guys get together and put those two things together? And that just gave you, a huge bump up on, potentially getting an award.
Yeah, so one of the cool things that Army Applications Lab did early on, and I believe they're still doing things like this, and they probably learned from it and it's evolved, but their version of an accelerator was, they said, here's a problem we're really trying to solve. And this was the autonomous reloader. This was the arm I told you about that Optronic was working on to put the big bullets into the missile launchers. And they said, we know this is a big problem. We know this is breaking people's backs. We know it's dangerous. We know it's something that it's kind of dull, dirty, dangerous work. This is what you want the robots doing. And it's not shooting the bullets. It's just like, can you move them, get them on the truck, right? But they also had looked at a bunch of stuff, and they're like, well, nobody quite has I have the thing to go put them on the truck right now, right? But they're like, Optronic has this part where if the power goes out, it doesn't drop drop the bomb. That's good. Someone else might have the thing that knows how to identify the bomb and pick it up really carefully. And maybe I'm just making stuff up right now, but maybe someone else has another piece. And so first thing they did is they identified a whole bunch of companies that might be a fit, and they had a field day. And they said, let's all go out and we're going to show you what this is like. And they took them out to the field and they showed them people loading up the tanks, and exposed them to the real problem. This is customer development, right? Getting proximate and getting close to the problem. And then they were able to talk about it and come back and ask questions and be like, oh, why do you do it that way? And oh, wow. And the entrepreneurs could see how this is like one of you going to work at a restaurant, or the people that I told you about washing cars, right? Really just understanding the problem. And then they all made proposals, and then they picked 4 or 5 of them that they thought together kind of had all the pieces, and together they had to come up with a complete solution, and they were able to give them all a bunch of money to go do that. So that was an early success in that project, and I'm sure I think they still do it, but I'm sure it's evolved in different ways.
Well, and it's interesting because that ARM concept actually, so we also have what we call an innovation warfighting forum, right? So we have soldiers that they're deployed, and one of the coolest things, we have these reactive tiles that cover our tanks, right? Well, they started out as big pieces of fence, just regular chain link fence that soldiers were loading on the tops of their tanks, so that when something came at them, it hit the fence and exploded before it hit the tank, right? So it minimized the damage. Right, it tripped it earlier. And so
that was on the field innovation.
Right, absolutely. So one of the things that one of our cool innovation hubs are doing in Georgia, they took that ARM concept and actually built an ARM sleeve, but it's a medical capability where it takes stats and you can plug in different IV type things, and it's something that you can just slide onto a patient, right? And it monitors them 24 hours a day, telling you what they need, those types of different things. They're working on this capability because we have something called the golden hour, right? After a soldier is injured, that first hour is really critical, right? So what they're trying to do is extend that to the golden day. So it gives you a 24-hour period really to make sure that you have the best chance of helping that injured soldier and making sure that you save a life. And so again, that type of capability where we have a robotic arm that's helping us load, then somebody saw it and said, you know what, if we kind of took that same type of thing, but let's put a medical, spin to it. So that's another thing. We talk a lot about dual use capability and technologies, right? Something that's useful in the commercial space, right? And then you use it in the defense. One of the things that we're trying to get better at is as the commercial space, builds and designs things more, we're trying to just go and work with you all, those companies to do that instead of the Army, spending all that time to do that. So, but I don't know if that was I forget if that was a question, but all right.
I'll add some other dual-use applications we've seen here. We have a company here called FitGrid. They were building it started out, had nothing to do with defense. They actually normally when these tables are out here, Patrick sits out here almost every day because he's trying to meet more people like Miss Newton walking by. But he had an app that basically would aggregate the data from all your wearables to give you a complete view of your health. Good idea, not by itself necessarily. He wasn't like hitting it as that being the company. But then he realized that the military, the Army, the Air Force, and everybody else, they do this fitness test that's like a big part of their culture, right? And it's like everybody has to like do the fitness test. And you have to do it on certain occasions, and you have to they have competitions, which is super cool, right? But it's very old school, right? It's like the test is like, go run around this thing and we time you, and what is the point of it? Is the point of it to make you run miles, or is the point of it to make sure you're all physically fit, right? Well, it turns out we can measure if you're physically fit. And even if you didn't go run the thing with us, we can measure if you ran, or if you how much exercise you got today, and how strong your heart is, and all these other things that are maybe even a better measurement in some ways of your physical fitness. And we can measure maybe even your mental fitness, right, or other things. And so he's been able to get contracts working with the Air Force, I know, and maybe others, to try to, and they're beginning to replace the military physical fitness test, which is this is old school hard stuff to go change, right? But with, hey, I just wore all my apps. And you can see I'm physically fit. What do I need to do? You can see I'm running, you can see I'm doing my thing. Why do I have to take a test? Right? And so I think that's one great example. There's a lot of others. We only have time for a few more minutes. I've got one more question to close it out. Let's take one more. I know you've been patient. And I have a flight. I'm leaving right after this, so I'm gonna run right out the door. I'm not gonna promise anything, but if Ms. Newton's able to hang out for a little bit, or she might be able to answer some more questions one-on-one too.
I already brought it up with you. So everyone here is coming from different background, including me. I'm going to consulting. I have no idea what I'm doing here right now. It's we are gonna do something for military, but you talk about very cool stuff. The application is open. I maybe understand, but for people who are undergrad, sophomore, junior, or senior, who want to do something but they have no idea how to start. So
it's perfect. This actually was my last question. So, what are the different possibilities of how students at UT can get involved and learn more about this or be part of the mission?
So,
that was your question?
Yeah. Is that okay?
And let me finish. And also we can talk, but I have some proposals that every student, you talk about the mental fitness, and something that a lot of us are not prepared and not on the same page, or we don't know what are you providing. So I was asking to because there are a lot of procedures already in a place that you guys have these contracts, businesses, if you have any idea, probably they're already in the work. Right. Some cool guys come and say, oh, this is my idea. Why don't you buy it from us? So, but I'm the corner of what we are missing out is the people like us that we want to contribute. And you may have some ideas already, but are you willing to outsource it, or are you willing to train people to become a member of but not a military acumen? Mm-hmm. So, kind of too many questions, but got it.
No, it's so lots of different options. And honestly, we're starting to really build this from a recruitment perspective, right? The Army, the military, we always were recruiting, but we want here in Austin to invite you all. One of the easiest ways is we do outreach, right? I do it actually downstairs in the first floor room down there that CapFAC has, right? And what I'd like to do is set one up to have all of you guys come. And we can actually then talk about a lot of different things. What I'll do is we'll prepare something you can give the class. If you have questions and things that you want to talk about. And then what I'll do is bring a bunch of really smart people in. And we could talk about, because when we did this, when Futures Command first stood up, right? We had a lot of military people, we had a lot of civilians, but we brought in a lot of specialists that were not in the military. They were highly qualified experts, right? And some of them were older, some of them were kids right out of college, some of them were really smart kids that were still in college, right? And so we have internship options, we have all kinds of different things that we can work so that if you guys want to come and spend time, see what we do, right? Talk to different people in different specialties.
I mean, there's like an education for that to know. I mean,
yes.
I mean, I'm probably blind about the whole thing. So if you just
right.
let us know what are the opportunities.
Absolutely.
Coming to A&M, you come to UT, that's cool, but it's like, what else? What are we exposed? Like I had no idea that military is open to undergrads and my students and like they're trying to work with
right.
us.
So one of the things that we have programs called Smart Scholars, right, for college students. We have Army Fellows programs. That's actually what I came into, right? And so that's kind of a fast track. But so we have a bunch of different programs that are for kids still in college. And then we also have programs that if you wanted to take that further into actual, postgraduate, you can do that.
Yeah, and you might be thinking of these, I'll throw out some more. Is Hacking for Defense still
there you go.
happening at
Yeah.
UT?
I don't know
it
if
is. I believe so. Hacking for Defense it was started. It's a national program at different universities, but it's a class you can take to learn more about these problems, get involved in teams, trying to just work on not necessarily make a startup even, but just solve a problem.
Google Hacking for Defense?
Yeah, and it's at UT. It's a UT class.
Okay.
It's like a
Yeah.
UT thing. And so that would be one. Capital Factory here, there are events going on all the time that happen here in this room or downstairs that are related to defense. So if you just watch our calendar, there are things going on where you can come learn about stuff.
Yeah.
Right? They're hosting stuff, we're hosting stuff, and there's, we just did a big event, Fed Supernova, at South by Southwest, there'll be stuff. There's just, during Austin Startup Week, their Tech Week, there'll be stuff. There's just always stuff going on, right? We do a specific event called Defense Academy. It's mostly targeted startups, but any of you can come, and it's like okay, we're gonna all teach you the basics about how this works. What are the buzzwords we use, what's SBIR, and things like that. There's a lot of cool startups in town. Go get an internship in one. Let's do working on some of these things. And lastly, and I'm going to say this carefully because it's a big commitment, and it's not something I've done myself. But yeah, if you want to get involved, like joining the National Guard or getting involved, obviously they want great people to be part of it who care about what they're doing, and there's lots of different ways. You don't necessarily have to go fully enlisted to go do that. Right. We work with a lot of great Guards people, and people in the National Guard. What's really interesting is they have a daytime job, and they also help out with these things, which means a lot of them work at Google or Facebook or somewhere else around here, and then so they understand this stuff really well. And then on the on the weekend, they're coming in and helping them figure out how to go make it work with the Army.
So we have a unit in Houston called the 75th Innovation Command, and that is an Army unit in the Army Reserves, right? So they're not a soldier all the time, but they come from all kinds of companies. I have a guy that works in our office now. He used to work at Dell. He used to work at Salesforce, thank you. And he actually manages, one of the teammates that manages our industry cell, right? And interfaces with all of these companies. And so, but he comes in every once in a while for his military time, but he is a soldier citizen.
And he brings a lot of really interesting perspective.
And he brings a ton of perspective, that industry knowledge on the military side. So there's a ton of ways to do that. And we weren't really set up to do a whole lot of that today, but I'll make sure that Josh has all of that info. And like I said, what I'm going to work with my team is we'd love to host you guys, and we can do it here. And I'll bring, like I told somebody else, I'm one of those people that knows a lot of things, like a little bit about a lot of things. But I will bring to you all the people that know a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right?
Another thing I really have inspired by, as I've gotten to know the Texas National Guard, is kind of like HEB, which is pretty much an extension of the Texas National Guard. That when like really important, like separate from fighting if in case of a war to protect us, when hurricanes happen, when really bad things happen, and people are out there, literally out there saving your neighbors' lives and making shit happen, it's the Texas National Guard. And like, there's times where something's going on and I feel like, wow, I wish I could do something. And like, I'm talking, and then lately it's like, I know somebody in the National Guard, they're like, yeah, like, I'm driving to Houston with my boat, and I'm going to like, get in the boat and go save people's lives, like, off the tops of their houses. And I'm like, damn, like, I thought I had an important day, but like, wow, like, that's, I find that really inspiring, like, and so being able to, that stuff to me, I think is super cool too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so we're pretty much out of time. I believe you might be able to ask more questions after. I want to mention one or two more things, so keep it the next slide. So next week, I mentioned this already, Justin from Base Power. Go look this company up. We're going to send you something to read earlier this week. There's actually, what we're going to send you is there's a blog post. Not blog post, it's one of those bloggers that like writes really in-depth, like super detailed things and has their own audience, but if you know it, they're really good, but he's not like super mainstream. And so he wrote this write-up on this company, and he took his time and he really interviewed them. And it's not just a great explanation of the company. Like, I think it's like a playbook of like how to go start a startup and like build an amazing, like how to identify a really big problem that matters and then build an amazing team around it and then go really get it funded right. And look, this is Zach Dell, okay? Like, it's Michael Dell's son. Like, he's really, not Justin, but his co-founder who's a lot of it's about as well. And I've known Zach actually since he was a high school kid. He had a startup here at Capital Factory in high school, and I've got know him pretty well. And he's not just like super lucky. Like, he obviously has a lot of good background and support, but super smart, super hardworking, super nice guy. You meet him, he does very humble. Although at the same time you're like so impressed because he's doing such amazing things. But really, it's kind of like, so yeah, he, on the one hand, he has everything going for him, right? Like, he can go recruit the best people, and he has credibility to go raise a lot of money. But it's not but everything about it's awesome. Like, it really is. Like, so it's just a great case study. I'd really encourage you to go read. That's the link we'll send out, and we'll have Justin, his co-founder, here to talk about it next week. Oh, and one last thing. So, it's so funny because I've said this so many times now, I've been here for a while, that I feel a little bit repetitive, but I don't think you've heard it before, so now I'm like, oh, I get to give my spiel where you haven't heard it before. But when the Army Futures Command came here and looked at Austin, one of the big themes they talked about was culture change. But why was it here in Austin? Why wasn't it in Washington, D.C. or on the East Coast where everything else is? Why wasn't it in these kind of more typical places? And putting it west of the Mississippi, technically, actually, that was a really big deal, that far away from Washington, D.C. Putting it in the middle of a city, like a big city. They don't, it's downtown in an office building. There's no other Army 4-star bases that's a base. There's no other 4-star commands in a city, in a building, right? And then having the outpost here. So that was a big about their change. And the fact that, where's Ms. Mendoza I saw, who's not wearing her uniform. Just gonna point that out. But the first time I've ever seen her not in her uniform. But yeah, they get to when they're sometimes they wear uniforms here, but they don't always have. They get to not wear uniforms. This is a big deal. Seriously, you get to work in Austin and not have to wear your uniform. Culture change. Okay, so that said, they did not say we are going to change your culture. We are going to come make you more military, not in a bad way or any kind of way, but just we're going to rub off on you. But turns out, guess what? They've been around since actually longer than the country. And so they have a lot of great traditions and culture, things of their culture and things like that. And probably one of the least important ones, the one that I've really enjoyed is when you meet an Army general or a Secretary of the Army or somebody really important. My first I was very lucky, was actually one of the best ones was the Secretary of Defense. And typically when they're traveling around and they want to honor a service member, somebody they work with, they'll present them with a coin. They don't have like a business card, they have like a coin that's like their calling card. It's got like their title on it, and it will often say something like presented for excellence or like some like impressive thing. And then occasionally they'll also give them to civilians, to people like me. And so one of the, I to be honest, like I just not trying to be humble. I don't know that I really deserve it at all, but just the nature of them coming here and doing the whole tour and everything like that is I get a lot of coins. And so I have like in my office, like what, if you're in the military, like you have your collection of coins, like
It's a big deal.
I have a very impressive collection, like even for being someone, I'm not even in the military, but for somebody that actually served in the military, I've got like Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, all these 4-star generals, like a really good collection. And so at one point, Craig Cummings, who's one of my close friends and a West Point grad and been our military advisors, he said to me, he said, Josh, you should make a Capital Factory coin so that like, when they give you a coin, you can turn around and like slip one back to them. And I was like, I'm allowed to do that? Like, that's okay? Like, that's not, like, disrespectful? He's like, no, actually, it's totally okay. You can totally go do that. And so we went and we made, like, a Capital Factory coin. And, of course, we always do everything, take everything a little too far. So after making the first coin, then we started making, like, a coin every year. There's been, like a coin of the year with different themes. We have, like, coins for different awesome things that we want to really celebrate. And so I would love to give you one. You only get a coin, really, when you come to Capital Factory, and particularly come on stage. And so I'd love to present you with one of our coins. It's got our Capital Factory logo on one side, and then you can see this, and these are for the years. So this one is from year, this is me getting old, I can't see, but the year on this one is 2019, which is the year we opened this floor, when the Army Futures Command officially kind of took place here. And that was like the year of Army Futures Command. And so then on the other side, it's got the Army Futures Command Forge the Future logo. I'm sure that's totally not allowed. But we got a whole other story for another time about our t-shirt, that one. But and you present these in a handshake. So thank you so much for coming. And I'm happy to have you be part of the Capital Factory family.
It was great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Guys, two quick things. Grab attendance, please. And then also downstairs in Voltron on floor 1, we're going to be having Fiesta. And you are all welcome to go. All you have to do is go to the front door and sign up. And then it's a great way to network, meet other entrepreneurs, meet startups that are in the community. So if you feel like going, go down to Voltron, which is to the right of the gift shop. Awesome. See you guys all next week. Amber has parking validations as well.
I'm kidding. Y'all still do this thing?